All right. Welcome everyone.
Good
Tune into the live
morning.
stream. Took a moment to get set up, but we're good to go. Hello, Victoria.
Hello, Josh.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
So today's topic is the power of presence. And obviously, it's a really interesting topic to keep yourself focused throughout the day. And you're obviously going to expand a lot more on that. But just to introduce you quickly, knowing that you're a spiritual coach, you're an author, you're part of a collaborative effort. You can share that book if you like. And you're also intuitive healer for people and animals. So you basically help people facilitate massive transformation in their life, specifically people that are considered empathic leaders or animal lovers and all around the world, right? Don't you have clients that are overseas as well?
I do. I do. Yeah. The great thing about the work I do is so much of it can be done virtually, so there's no restrictions there. So,
Got it. Yeah. So basically, you're helping to teach people how to find and develop their own personal power using their intuition, listening to the voice, that gut instinct, and helping them actualize all of their heart's desires so they can really show up as they truly are without having to apologize for them being themselves all the time. And how often do we hear that? Is you say something to somebody and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry." Everybody's always apologizing when really there's nothing to apologize for. So that's an interesting take on it anyway, right?
absolutely.
Cool. So let's dive in. I have a couple questions here about the power of presence. So the first one is pretty obvious. What does it mean to be present? It's not presents for my birthday, right? No.
No, no, those are on the way. Those are in the mail. Uh,
Yeah.
so presence in to be present is to be focused on and giving 100% of your attention to that one thing, whatever that thing is, whether it be a person, you're having a conversation with somebody, with your child, with your partner, with your beloved, with a coworker, and or whatever task at hand that you are actually doing. Driving, often many of us tend to go off into, you know, inspirational land and go onto autopilot while driving. And luckily, that's fine until, of course, something were to happen very suddenly. And if you're off track, you're sitting there, eating a sandwich while you're driving and on a phone call. Now we're getting into the whole myth of multitasking, which we know truly that you scientifically proven that we can't actually multitask. So
Right.
presence
Right.
again is just that it's the art of being focused on and giving 100% of your energy to that one thing, whether it be, gardening or working on a car, whatever the thing is that you're doing, painting.
So really basically dropping into the moment and kind of exploring and being in the finer details of what's actually happening.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Yeah. So then what are the consequences of like lacking presence in the day to day? Like if we don't have presence in the day to day activity, like what are the consequences of that?
Well, the consequences of that, and typically when we're not being present, certainly you could physically be doing something else, right? You're on the phone with somebody, let's say, and at the same time you're cooking dinner for your family, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when that happens, you're not going to hear everything your friend is saying, or your sister, or your beloved. It's not going to be, because you're going to have to focus on putting spices on the chicken and then putting the chicken into the oven. And so what happens is your focus bounces back and forth, right, from one thing to the other. And so the consequences, I mean, they can be minimal to expansive. Number one is um, you're not nurturing the relationships that you have. So, a pretty common thing, as a relationship coach and at me being in a relationship, knowing that one of the common arguments or requests from partners is that, you know, you're not hearing me or you're not listening to me. And so that if that goes on consistently and continuously over and over, it can truly affect the sanctity of your relationship, you know. So as well as if you're not paying attention driving, a consequence of that could be a fatal accident. So it can be dangerous. I mean, it can, if you're operating machinery, heavy machinery, and you're not being present, or hence under the realm of alcohol or drugs, which will obviously create impairment, which will not allow for you to completely focus on the task at hand. So, you know, there's safety reasons, there's mistakes, just making mistakes, you know, at work, you're editing something, or you're sending a text message, or you're sending an email, and you don't leave all the information, you don't put all the information in there, you leave something out, and then you have to resend it. So it also can be a consequence of when we're not focused, we're not efficient, and then we're wasting time. Truly, it's this vicious cycle, because what we're trying to do is save time, aren't we? Time is such this hot commodity that nobody thinks that they have enough of. And we're always trying to take shortcuts by doing this thing we call multitasking that isn't even real. And then by doing that often, it actually creates, it takes more time from us.
Yeah, because
Ultimately.
essentially it's task switching is basically what it is. It's like, so multitasking really is rapidly task switching, which basically kind of splits our presence between multiple items. So we have to it's almost like we have to land the plane of presence into this area of focus, and then take off again and fly to another area of focus and land the plane again. And all of that takes time. It takes time to make sure you know where you're flying to, make sure you know where you're landing, make sure, you know, all of that. I mean, that's kind of a bigger metaphor on what it may look like to rapidly task switch. But it does, and it also taxes us like energetically, in terms of like exhaustion or splitting our focus. It's almost as if we're kind of splitting our energy. It's like has a half-life that's much shorter. Like our ability to maintain focus and energy throughout the day. You know, one thing that I do when I go from working on the computer to then going and working with clients in a massage setting, you know, one thing that I do very, very specifically is make sure I get grounded into the space that I'm in before I begin to do the next activity. So, and that looks just like, you know, taking a few breaths, you know, being present in the room before somebody comes in, like things like that, you know, and really setting the stage for presence in the moment so I can focus on it. Because, you know, there's so many things in our life that are demanding our attention. And we're always ready to be distracted by the next thing, whether it's our phone or a person or a thought or an emotion, something that may come up. You know, many times I find myself getting little downloads of previous experiences through my life. You know, I go to the store and meet somebody that reminds me of somebody else that I used to live with in college. And now all of a sudden I'm remembering a story about that. Meantime, I'm driving. So totally like not present driving because my mind is somewhere else. So yeah, so I totally get it. And I guess then understanding the consequences, you know, what are some steps that we can practice to being present? Like, what would you suggest?
Well, just backing up to a few things that you had mentioned, Josh, you know,
Sure.
a question that I often get asked is how do I know when I'm not being present, right? Which is probably the majority of the time is we are not being present, because think about when you are fully immersed in that thing. And usually it's something we really love or enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
So again, whatever that thing is that you do, when you do it, the time stands still, your phone doesn't matter, right? And it's just you're in complete peace. So what if you were to choose this thing of being present, taking maybe a 30-day commitment to yourself, right? That you would say, I'm going to commit to being present with everything in my life. Like imagine how that could really change us, because often, and as you mentioned, the distractions, certainly they can be, your dog, your kids, work. However, the biggest distraction that I typically serve and support my clients around is their mind. And
Mm.
you had mentioned that. So, the mind can be a very powerful entity, and it can really, fuck with us, right? Like totally mess us up. So it's being present with that, of knowing when, what are the conversations that you're having with yourself, like self-talk. And what presence teaches us is to, like you were saying, go. You're going from here. You're jump and task switching so often, in the car here, in the car there, walking into an appointment, being with a client, especially with the work that you do as a healer and a body worker. It's really important that you show up with full presence in that place. And so the consequences of that would be distraction. You're working with somebody else's energy and somebody else's body, as I do as well. And if I'm not in a good space of neutrality, then the person you're working on will absolutely feel the effects of that, right? So it's so important, the presence piece, especially in the mental health realm. But getting into that space of getting present with what is happening in the moment. We have a absolute epidemic of chronic mental health issues. There are millions, maybe millions, absolutely hundreds and thousands of people on medication because, for anxiety and depression, right? They can't deal. They need, in order to heal, you need to feel. You need to feel in order to heal. But if you can't even deal, then what happens is we tend to create habits and patterns and even addictions in our life because we're not able to feel safe, perhaps, in our own bodies. We don't have the tools, we don't have the techniques. And, the simple art of being present is the first step in healing for everybody. And, people are like, how do I do this? And like you were saying, like, what are some steps that we can take into being present? And just a few things that I can recommend. Number one is you must create the space and the awareness of it. So step one is to acknowledge that you're not present. Just by doing that creates presence because you're focusing on the thing, right? And without judgment. So it's sort of like open and curious, interesting point of view. Now that we're talking about presence, I will have to say that I am not present most of the time. Okay, great. You have that observation. Now, what are you going to do about it? So just like any habit, you want to go to the gym, you want to start going to the gym, you want to start eating healthy, you want to start meditating on a daily basis, you want to train for a marathon, you want to learn how to golf, right? So whatever it is, you choose it and then you commit to it. So that's what it is. So committing to a presence practice is really what it's like. So in the morning, even if you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I don't care. We all have time in the morning, even if it's on the toilet, your toilet time, your shower time, even if you're driving, a half hour to work in the morning, instead of listening to the news, take a moment and make that be your ritual and just sit, drop into the space and just set an intention to be more present. That's it. It's that simple. Setting a reminder on your phone, on your calendar app, writing it onto I have a lot of clients that love their paper planners, so write it on your paper planner every day. Put up sticky notes at your computer and on the visor in your car. So again, in order for this thing that we have been doing for eternity, that has been sitting in the subconscious, for us to bring it to fruition and to light and to create consciousness around it, we need to choose it and we need to commit to it. Also noticing when you are, so anxiety, and oh my goodness, I have dog clients and people clients. Anxiety is typically the top thing that is on the top of their list, anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And what people don't really understand, anxiety is an excessive amount of energy stored in your field with nowhere to go. So often anxiety is connected to something called, that I say, future projecting. I got that term from an amazing client, and I've just use it a lot. But future projecting is when you're not being in the present moment. Where are you? So when you're not in the present moment, and you know, we talked about multi-switching and switching tasks, and then there's a whole other ball game. It's when you're alone with yourself and you're not being in the present moment, and you're either obsessing about what if, the shoulds, all of those things, and then it becomes that obsessive cycle and you're focusing on the future. Or depression, think about when you depress something, you literally push it down. Depression literally feels heavy in our physical and emotional body. And often when people are doing depression, the body posture literally turns into this. So we're closing off, right? The energetic field, the heart center is closed off. And so whether you're spending a lot of time in the future or whether you're spending a lot of time in the past, this is about giving yourself permission to notice where you're sitting, where you're spending time, especially when you're by yourself.
So there's a lot of great stuff there. Given good explanation of anxiety and depression and kind of like where it begins and it could be rooted in a multitude of different things, but the basic idea and the basic premise is that it starts with recognizing that you're not in the present moment, you're doing depression, maybe you're thinking about something, or you're trying to anticipate what's going to come down the road, whether it's, going out of town or focusing on, potential job opportunities in the future or clients that you have to follow up with, or whatever it is. So what it made me think about was that the present moment is really all we have. So this moment right now, while we're speaking, that's what's going on. Now I can think about other things. I can think about what I'm going to be doing in 2 hours, and I can think about like what I'm going to be doing this weekend, and I can keep going out. But if I do that, and every moment that I'm thinking about something else, I'm not being present in this moment. Now, it's not bad. It's not good or bad, although it is taking away from what's happening right now. And technically, that's all we really have. And it reminds me of like a child's mind, like that 2, 3, 4-year-old child's mind of just being amazed by everything, just understanding like how a button works and really like getting it and being like, oh my God, buttons are so cool. Oh my, look at your shirt has buttons. And all of a sudden this heightened awareness of the universe, like it becomes more expansive. And because we get older and we have more experience with buttons, they aren't that exciting anymore. We just button them. We probably don't even think about button, probably thinking about something entirely different. Right. Now, the consequence of not thinking about buttoning as intensely as a 2 or 3-year-old, may not be that much. But as that goes on, what other things are we missing out on the experience of life on because we're choosing to not be present in that moment?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's so great. I mean, that's the whole point of, a lot of the coaching and the programs that I offer for my students and my clients are to kind of come back to that, the beginner's mind, as we express it in the yogic tradition, and because we kind of know what something is, and then we write it off, and then we don't even notice it. The things that are around us all the time are just like, they're just there. And so we don't even think that we can receive a contribution from them anymore, because we already know, oh, that's an apple, that's a tree. Like, for example, I went out this morning into the garden, and I was sitting in the chair, and we have a, a hummingbird feeder, and we've got butterfly bushes, we've got all these little plants and flowers, and this angel statue. And I sat in the same spot that I always do, and I look over and I see a chrysalis on the inner wing of the angel. So which is, so I thought, oh my goodness, this is the first time I've ever seen one, I think, in front of me. A butterfly is going to be born, like, in the garden. And I was so in awe of that. Now, most people might see it and just walk right by it. But for me, it never gets old. Every single time the hummingbird flies up into my face, I say, hello, how can I contribute to you? How might you be able to contribute to me? So by being and seeing the magic in everyday life, it's just like everyday life, people get bored, they go through their midlife crisis. They're like, is this all this there is? Driving my kid here, doing this, doing that. And little do people know that they can create their own adventure every single day, just by being present and being open and asking for source, spirit, your spiritual team, your guides, your animal guides, whatever it is that you connect with, to just show me something new, something magical, something amazing. Like, we all love, I don't know that there's many people that don't love to see a big, beautiful rainbow up in the sky, because we don't see it that often. But what if every single day there was a rainbow in the sky? Eventually you would just get over it, and you would think, like, whatever, I'm just gonna, and then we just take it for granted, that thing, that most beautiful, magnificent, magical thing. And that
Yeah.
makes me sad. Like, that's the thing. So that's why, it's such a big part of my mission to really teach people how to be and see the magic in everyday life. And it has to start with presence. It has to. Because if you're constantly being distracted, if you're constantly being pulled in different directions, if you're constantly avoiding, like, the real stuff that you have not dealt with, or healed, or any of that. I mean, a big piece of the work that I do is about teaching and empowering women and young teenagers to heal themselves, but you can't heal something that you're not even aware of. So notice, any habit, pattern, or belief system that doesn't serve you. And I've, coined the term escapism. So what is it, that thing that you're doing on a regular basis, a very, very, very consistent basis, that isn't serving you, right? So what are some things like that? It could be binge watching Netflix. It could be drinking that 2-3 glasses of wine every night, the extra cookie. It's not about the thing itself. It's about your relationship to the thing and what you're using that thing for. Is it for distraction? Is it for, to avoid something? Is it, because something happened to you, very traumatizing, or challenging to you as a child, and you just stuffed it down and you didn't deal with it? Well, the truth is that if you don't deal with it, it's just going to grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, until you start to put some presence on it.
Yeah. There's some really powerful points there around, the idea of acknowledging your current state and being aware of what's happening. Although the challenge around that is like, okay, great, I'm upset, or I have these problems. I'm aware of my problems. So, like, explain, just unpack that a little bit on the awareness side, because, I could feel like maybe like I'm aware I have a problem. I don't need awareness of my problem, you know? So maybe there's a little bit of misunderstanding in terms of how
So
that works.
yeah, so I often will post on social media platforms. I talk about the fact that every trigger, every person, event, or thing that constantly is triggering you, and a trigger is basically something that happens that puts you into an unbalanced state. So things like being irritated, annoyed, frustrated, impatient, angry, chronically sad, or anxious. Those are all things that are not normal, things that you should be in that state
Right.
all the time. Every
Mhm.
emotion that we have is information, and is the body communicating with us something. However, if you're constantly getting triggered by the same things over and over again, if you're constantly attracting the wrong kind of partner over and over and over again, right? If you constantly have a job and you're not happy with it, and then you leave that job and you're searching and you keep searching and searching outside of yourself for peace and joy and harmony within your space and within your reality, that's a pretty good indication that there's something a little bit deeper.
Mm.
What's under the surface? So again, we all have quote unquote problems. It's not shining a light on the problem, it's shining a light on the your reaction to the problem.
Mm.
And are you constantly attracting on a vibrational frequency drama and trauma? And it's and part of that, for example, that commonly is because when you were a little girl or a little boy, you grew up in that state, so you are used to being in a place where you didn't maybe feel safe. There was a lot of inconsistency, there was dysfunction, maybe you had an alcoholic mother or father. So all of those things will create a disconnect between you feeling safe and the lack of um, tools or techniques to help to self-regulate your central nervous system. So, we hear this all the time. People talk about stress and stress, but stress, the thing that stresses you out is not the problem. It is our response. It is our connection, it is our relationship to the stress. It's how we handle the stress. Some
Yeah,
people
because
are more
technically
resilient.
it's actually called stress response, right? That's usually
Yes,
what it's, because stress is not a thing. Stress is a response to a thing, to a trigger,
yes,
to an event, to a thing.
yes,
So everybody's
yes,
like, yeah, I'm stressed. It's like, okay, well, what are you responding to right now in this present moment that's stressing
right,
you out? Well, nothing. So you're not stressed.
right.
So let it
Exactly.
go. That's
Exactly.
present
Especially
moment
when they're
for you.
coming in to get a massage from you. And yes, so we have to reel it in a little bit and say, well, so that's what when I work with my clients, we do the deep dive, and we gently and lovingly start to unpack, right, from the surface, and then eventually we go deep to the deeper stuff. And so it's really important, first of all, you're playing the victim. Is it everything happens to me? Why does everything happen to me? And it's not that way. The universe is conspiring in your favor, always. The universe supports you and wants to have your back. However, if you have grown up in a very dysfunctional, unhealthy, not very safe environment where you weren't having your basic level of needs met, your adrenals most likely are shot. So you hear the thing of like adrenal imbalance or adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion. And your adrenals are the glands that assist us in the fight or flight situation. So if you're constantly in a state of fight or flight and everything stresses you out, your adrenals never stop producing all those stress hormones. And then that plays a toll on your body. And then a lot of the other systems can't communicate with each other. And then the thyroid starts to not be able to work and communicate with it, with this and that. And then the immune system gets affected, and then you're sick, or, and then you've got all these mental health issues, and then you're taking all these medications, and then you're spiraling out. So if we're not getting to the root, which is Eastern medicine. Western medicine is you go to the doctor, you say, I have anxiety, and they say, take a pill. Now, again, I am not saying that it's not helpful. I have many clients who at times have used medication to assist them in a transition. However, I am here to say that and science is actually proving this, that again, anxiety is a symptom. Depression is a symptom of something else. And let's get to it. Let's figure
Okay,
it out.
so I'm gonna roll back a little bit because I liked you had brought up something that I've always talked about for years, about the idea of that the universe doesn't understand negative connotation, and it's always trying to fulfill your desire and what you want. The trouble comes with what we're actually asking for. And you brought up the point that somebody's, I've heard people say this in the past, oh, this kind of stuff always happens to me, or that's just my luck. That's exactly what I'm going to get. And when you say those things, now it may be in a cheeky way or a sarcastic way, but the universe doesn't understand sarcasm. It's very straightforward. So when you say that and you always say that, then you're always going to get that as a result, because you're basically saying, in the future, I want to continue to be this unlucky person. I want to continue to receive this same crappy, shitty end of the stick that I've received in my whole life, because I always acknowledge that I received the crappy end. And then I always acknowledge the fact that I'm going to continue to receive that crappy end of the stick.
Yeah.
And then guess what I get? I get the crappy end of the stick.
And in defense of those people, where I was one of those, many years ago, it's what they're used to. It's what they expect. It's what they've always gotten. So their brain is literally wired to expect, the shit end of the stick. And so what I teach people is, so there's this term called neuroplasticity. And Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about it a lot. Many neuroscientists, all the great trauma teachers and authors speak about this. And it's literally about rewiring the neurons in the brain to see things differently. So we've got three aspects to our mind. We have the negative mind, the positive mind, and the neutral mind. We use all three. All three are beneficial during their time. However, what I see with most people is that 90% of the time they're in the negative mind. So the negative mind, there is a purpose for it. And it's, for us to be in that critical mind and to be discerning about decisions and the choices that we make. And also it's, should I, you hit the button of the elevator opens up and there's a creepy guy in the elevator and you're like, it just doesn't feel right. And then you just say, oh shoot, I forgot something. I'm good. And you don't get on that elevator. So, that and then if someone has a high level, like a positive mind is great, but not always. We're not talking about spiritually bypassing and always being happy. I'm happy, I'm fine, I don't have any problems, I'm fine. And then that person is the person that suddenly blows up because they're so resentful, because they're not even telling anybody their true feelings, and they're not asking for any help or support because of a limiting belief that they created when they were 7 years old that said, I'm not going to ask anybody for help ever again. So there's so many levels and layers to it. And again, like you've mentioned a few times, Josh, the whole point is to create awareness. Presence, being present, creates awareness. When you are able to create awareness around anything, why is my business not successful? Why are my relationships not successful? Why am I not losing weight? Why do I feel like shit? Why am I not happy? Right? You have to start by being in the question, which was our last LinkedIn, which again, you can find, we did record. And if you want to find the replay of how to be in the question, it's on my YouTube channel at Victoria Haffer, Center of Possibilities. And so by being in the question, and now we can get expansive, we can start to look at different parts of our life. What part of your life is not working, right? That one part, because a lot of times people tend to they might not have a great relationship with their partner. And so instead of focusing on that and asking your beloved, like, you know, where have we gone? You know, we used to do this and do this and this, and instead it comes out with sarcasm or judgment or blaming the other person for the fact that it takes two to tango and tangle, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, that's why the presence has to be there first. But then you also have to notice, where am I avoiding and escaping? So instead of spending time nurturing your relationship with your beloved, maybe you become a workaholic. So you use that as an excuse subconsciously. You don't even realize you're doing it. So you just put all your time and energy into your work because you don't know how to deal, because you're so afraid to feel. Therefore, you can't heal, right? So it's just that whole cycle. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. A lot of good stuff there. And it reminds me, just one last thing on being present is, somebody told me one time, if you ever want to lose weight, there's two things that you can do and you don't have to change your diet. And I was like, okay, what's that? Number one was chew your food 30 times. And the second was swallow your food and take a breath before you take another bite. And part of that
who told you
activity
that?
is being really is being present, really is being present as you eat food. What does it taste like? Enjoy it. Like, we take a bite and we catch the flavor quick and we're like, oh yeah, that's pizza, it's delicious. And then we keep doing whatever we're doing. And
And
that's
we're
like the
using,
extent.
and that's the other thing that goes to, like, where are you using things to mask the pain, fill a void, or to escape? So food, we know, is very common. It's so common that we do that. You know, sometimes people eat for stress or they eat for social reasons, but as you were saying, just by being present. So whatever the thing is, so I want everybody, whoever's with us right now, and whether you're on the replay or not, just take a moment and let's just go through a really simple breathing exercise. And if you're able to, if you're driving, keep your eyes open. So uncross your legs and allow for your feet to perhaps touch the floor or the earth, if it's possible. Kick off your shoes if you can, and open your arms up. So allow for the shoulders to sort of open and slide down your back body, and allow for your palms to turn up. And then just notice, because the breath your breath has a direct connection to your state of mind in any given moment. So notice how often you're holding your breath on the inhale, which actually kicks us more into the fight or flight stress response. And just notice the breath. Maybe place one hand on your belly below your navel point and just begin to gently press your belly into your hand on your inhale. So you're expanding and creating space in the body. And just follow the energy down. We tend to have a lot of energy sitting up in our critical mind, in the left hemisphere of the brain. So just follow the breath, in through the nose so that it goes down through the back of the throat, down into the lungs, expanding the lungs on the inhale, and just see if you can stretch that breath out as much as you can without straining. So maybe a 5, 6, 7, 8-second inhale. And then a slow, expansive exhale. So you could just imagine that with each exhale that you're releasing. And you don't even have to know what you're releasing. Just say to yourself, I'm releasing anything that doesn't serve me. Your spiritual team will take the lead on that. And, it could be old beliefs, old patterns, old habits, relationships that aren't serving you anymore. And then just do that. Like, set your timer. Do it for a minute. Do it for 30 seconds. Ideally, the longer, the more benefit you're going to get. Maybe eventually you work up every day, you just add on an extra 30 seconds or a minute to that. And if you can get out into nature, even better. But, this is going to help you to anchor you into the present moment. Inhale, expansive. Space, lightness. Exhale, empty out. And you can even imagine or visualize or see or feel a grounding cord coming out from the base of your tailbone, going through the chair, going through your floor, going through the foundation of your building. And just imagine that you're emptying out any old crud, stagnation, old noise. Know that your body is a perfectly orchestrated instrument. And just like instruments get out of tune, the physical body does as well. And so asking by clearing out the sludge and the lower vibrational frequencies and emotions, just empty out and allowing for Gaia, Mother Earth, to receive it and transmute it into something else. Inhale, create space. Exhale, release and let go. And once you've done this for a few moments, a few minutes, 5 minutes, this is step one for meditation. This is like just meditation 101. That's it. It's so simple. It doesn't have to be so hard. And now in this space, notice, how does it feel to be in your body right now?
Things are quieter for sure.
And so
You know?
what was that, a minute or something? Like it doesn't take that long. It's just choosing it. And what you will find is if you choose to be present more often, I promise you, you will be happier, more joyful, more efficient,
More abundant.
right? Because you're not restricting the flow, right? Like you were saying before about the putting out and the constantly doing things. What's happening is you're literally pushing energy out at everything. You're just pushing energy out. And so what meditation and what presence teaches us is how to receive from source, whatever that is for you. God consciousness, Buddha, Jesus, the fairy realm, Mother Earth, nature, whatever that is to you, and asking how to receive from that unlimited, universal life force energy to fill you up. And just choose it every day.
Bam. There it is. Okay. So I know that you have an online program that's about to launch here, and I know the pre-launch price ends today. Did you want to share something about that program?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to invite everybody to the program. If you're interested and you want to get on a quick call with me and chat about it, that's great. But what I've noticed is even when I work with my private clients that we go deep diving and we do that private, the first thing that we're always focusing on is how the art and the power of being present, teaching people how to be present, how to create this expansive space and be in the space of consciousness. And so what I created that I'm super excited about is a 30-day online experience. So virtual, but you will have me holding space for you live on the weekly call, 90-minute weekly call. So 4 90-minute calls weekly. There will be a topic and a sacred topic that we discuss. There will be a tool or a technique that you will use that you will practice, and you will be choosing one pattern, habit, or even a sort of addiction situation thing that you've been doing that that if you stop doing it could completely change your entire reality. And you will have my focus and my presence for you for a whole 30 days to go through this. There will be a private non-Facebook group so we can be in space together, because also community and knowing that there's other people out there just like you that are going through a lot of the same stuff. Group support and community is so powerful for our healing. And let's see if I missed anything. So we start Tuesday, September 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and all of the meetings will be recorded, and you will, being a founding member of the program, you'll have lifetime access to it. So again, pre-launch price does end today, and we start Tuesday, September 27th, and I'm super excited and hope to see you there.
Yeah, there's a link right now on your profile page on LinkedIn, so you can see it there. You can reach out, message on LinkedIn, and or website victoriahaffer.com. So that's great. Thank you for sharing with us today and giving some people some presence on presence.
My gift,
It
my
was
gift
great.
to you is that you don't have to do it alone, and it doesn't have to be so freaking hard. So just choose it, ask to receive, connect with your spirit and source every single day, and just watch the magic unfold. And reach out if I can support you in any way. And thank you so much to Josh being our host with the most today. And I hope that everyone has a magical day.